In this video, you'll learn why I'm kind of obsessed with doTERRA's co-impact sourcing model. I'll share the 8 guiding principles that they follow that make them different than any other essential oil company. And if you stick around until the end of the video, I'm going to share 3 stories behind 3 oils that made me cry the first time I heard them. All right, so what are the 8 guiding principles? Number 1 is generating jobs. Number 2 is providing fair and on-time payments. Number 3 is building supplier capacity. And number 4 is sustaining long-term partnerships. Number 5 is providing fair labor conditions. Number 6 is promoting farming cooperatives. Number 7 is providing environmental stewardship, and number 8 is facilitating community development. All right, so let's get into number 1, generating jobs, and I'll provide an example and a region in the world that this applies to. So one of our oils, Spanish sage, is sourced from Spain, and it's sourced in the countryside, and the community that it is sourced from, unfortunately, it's a very hard job. You have to bend down with a machete and harvest the plant. So it's very labor intensive, and it's done by older men. And the older men have shared that many of the younger men in the community have actually moved out of the countryside into the cities for industrial jobs. And so one of the ways that doTERRA is helping this community is by actually creating and generating jobs for the communities, so that as young people grow up within the community, they will have a job and a paycheck and a source of income instead of having to leave their families and go into the cities. So that's just one simple example. All right, number 2 is providing fair and on-time payments. This is evident in basically every single place that we source essential oils from, but I'll give a specific example. We source helichrysum from Albania, and the farmers here are paid within 48 hours of selling their raw materials to doTERRA. It's one of the many examples that I can pull from. All right, number 3 is building supplier capacity, and this means that we are teaching suppliers, farmers, harvesters, how they can increase their yield so that they can increase their income. An example here is in Madagascar, where we source our vanilla. We actually, through our not-for-profit Healing Hands Foundation, have created an agricultural training center. So the Mahadera Agricultural Training Center is actually available to the children of the vanilla farmers. And after the 3-year program, they're provided with educational opportunities, and they're taught things like crop diversification and crop yield, as well as financial management. All right, number 4 is sustaining long-term partnerships. It makes absolutely perfect business sense that doTERRA would want to create long-term partnerships with its farmers and harvesters so they know exactly where they're getting essential oils from for years to come. A really neat story that was just told at convention last week. So I'm recording this in September of 2024, and I just got back from Salt Lake City and doTERRA's annual convention. And they told a story about our copaiba essential oil, which is sourced from Brazil. When it launched at convention several years ago, we saw a specific harvester who is the reason why we are able to source this oil. During the last few years, especially during the pandemic, doTERRA lost touch with this harvester and couldn't find him. And they have been trying for 4 years. And they finally found him and have brought him back into the fold. I don't know the full details of why they couldn't find him for the longest time, but they have found him, and they've created a stewardship program for him. So he's now training 8 harvesters and creating a legacy of teaching them how to harvest themselves so that they can do this for themselves and for their families. I just think it's amazing. And when we say that every person matters, it's so evident in stories like this, that they went and tracked down one single harvester. They source essential oils from so many different companies, but this one person is important to them and they care about, and they wanted to make sure that he and his family was okay. So just the power of a story like that is what really gets me. All right, number 5 is fair labor conditions. doTERRA, when they go into a community, will ensure that the farmers and harvesters are working under great conditions, that they aren't at the detriment of their health, sacrificing and not being taken care of. So if they don't have proper running water, then Healing Hands will come in and ensure that the community is getting running water. So it's just simple things like that that are part of that guiding principle. All right, number 6 is promoting cooperatives. Another example in Madagascar where we source ylang-ylang is a farming cooperative where they can pool resources and improve their agricultural techniques to be able to supply doTERRA with the flowers that create the essential oil. And in turn, doTERRA provides training around distillation and harvesting processes for a win-win situation on both sides. Number 7 is environmental stewardship. I love this example because it's from my home country, Canada, but balsam fir is harvested here. It's actually like a straight shot north from where I live in Ottawa in Quebec. So the logging industry in Canada harvests balsam fir and they chop down the tree, but they leave the branches and the needles. So doTERRA's sourcing partner here, after the logs have been cut and taken out for the logging industry, they'll go in and grab everything else that has been left on the ground. That goes into the distillation unit. And then whatever is left over is actually taken and then powers the distillation. So it's then dried out and burned and will then power the distillation unit, which I think is really cool. So it's a closed loop system and there is no waste involved. All right, last but not least, we have number 8, which is community development. I found a really cool example. In Kenya, we source lemon eucalyptus. In the community where we source lemon eucalyptus, I'm gonna read this off of the website to make sure that I get this correctly, but these are all the things that we've built. A school library, water storage, staff room, restrooms, teacher living quarters at another school, scholarship support, a bridge that allows the community and the school children to cross a local river, and they've even constructed a kindergarten school, a community center, a borehole, and a water tower. But our Healing Hands Foundation, the not-for-profit entity of doTERRA, it solely exists to make all of the communities that are part of the doTERRA family better. And so I absolutely love that about this company. If you find this video helpful, I would be really happy if you could hit the like button and the subscribe button so that more people can find this type of content. If you'd like to watch my video on how I discovered essential oils, I named the co-impact sourcing practices as one of the 3 reasons that I fell in love with this company. All right, I know I promised you 3, but this video is getting long, so I'm gonna shorten it a little bit, and I'm going to share 2 essential oil bottles and the story behind the bottles. So number 1 is pink pepper. Pink pepper is sourced from Kenya and Peru, but we're gonna talk about a lady in Kenya. When this video first launched at convention, I had tears streaming down my face that we're able to provide a better life for people, because you don't always think about farming and harvesting as a better life, but compared to what is out there, it, in my opinion, definitely is. So we met, and I'll link the video, it's actually on doTERRA's YouTube. We met a lady named Veronica, and she has 5 children. And in 2014, she lost her husband. He passed away. And to make ends meet and to feed her children, pay for their schooling, she attempted to create these ropes that she would try to sell to shopkeepers and truck drivers. And unfortunately, they wouldn't buy that, but they would buy something else. So unfortunately, she had to start selling her body. One day, she was sitting on the side of the road and she was approached by one of our sourcing partners who asked if her and her friend would be interested in learning how to harvest pink pepper. So they were curious and they learned how. It's quite labor intensive. They have to climb into the pink pepper trees, shake the pink pepper down, it falls down onto the ground, it has to be dried out, and then they carry it in. But Veronica and her friend were quite good at it, and they were able to earn more money doing this than what they were doing before, which is incredible. And she's able to create a better life for herself and her children, simply by climbing a tree and shaking pink pepper down onto the ground. All right, story number 2 is lemongrass. This is, if you haven't tried it with eucalyptus in a diffuser, it smells like a spa. Pro tip. Okay, but I digress. Lemongrass sourced from India. Again, many of the Indian farmers are small-scale farmers, and they haven't figured out how to properly rotate crops. So one of the things that dōTERRA has done is funded an organization called Farms and Farmers, and it offers targeted vocational training to small-scale farmers in India to learn how to properly rotate crops and harvest crops such as lemongrass in between their cash crop season to provide an additional income for them and their families. As part of the Farms and Farmers initiative, Healing Hands also donated money to create a new distillery in the region, which allows for a new and more efficient distillation process. One of the really cool things about this is it has actually increased some of the farmers' income by 5 times what they were making before. In addition to that, there are a lot of orphans, and so Healing Hands created Angel's Place, which houses 160 orphans. We were also able to acquire land for Angel's Place to own. So in 2008, Angel's Place acquired, I want to make sure I get this number right, 172 hectares, which is 425 acres. And they lease the land to farmers and harvesters who are able to grow lemongrass, get an income for themselves, and also generate an income for Angel's Place and for the orphans. So I just think a model like that is so smart and definitely has my heart. All right, thanks for watching this video and spending time with me in this little corner of the internet. I appreciate your time. If you haven't had a chance to give this video a thumbs up or subscribe, this is your call to action to do it now. As always, I try to post a new video every Tuesday, so I will see you in the next video.